In section 1.3, we'll be looking at quadratic equations. A quadratic equation is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are real numbers and a cannot be equal to 0. There are strategies that we use for solving these quadratic equations. First, we can factor. Second, we can complete the square. And thirdly, and most popular, is the quadratic formula. These are the different strategies that we use for solving a quadratic equation. The first strategy that we'll look at is factoring. For example, let's say we have x squared plus 8x plus 12 is equal to 0. We ask ourselves the question, what factors of 12 add up to 8? Those factors are 6, positive 6, and a positive 2. When we multiply 6 times 2, we get 12, but when we add 6 plus 2, we get 8. So these are the correct factors. According to the AC method, which is what we'll be using here, A times B is equal to C. What we should do is set A equal to 0 or set B equal to 0. So for our problem, we'll set x plus 6 equal to 0 or x plus 2 equal to 0. And we solve for x in both equations, and we get x is equal to negative 6 or x is equal to negative 2. So our solution here will be negative 6 and negative 2. For example number 2, let's say we have 3x squared plus 1 is equal to 4x. First thing we have to do is make one side equal to 0. So that means we're going to now have 3x squared minus 4x plus 1 equals 0. Always have to have one side equal to 0. All right, so when we factor this, we could factor this to 3x and an x on this side. Only factors of 1 are 1 and 1. Since we have a minus 4 in the middle, that means both of these and a plus 1 here, both of these are going to be negative. Well, let's check to see if this works. In the middle, we'll get minus x. When we do the outer, we'll get minus 3x, which gives us a negative 4x in the middle that we're looking for. And we do last times last, we get a positive 1, which is what we have up top. And we do first times first, we get 3x times x, which is 3x squared. So this works. All right, so now what we're going to do is set each factor equal to 0. So I'm going to set 3x minus 1 equal to 0, or x minus 1 equal to 0. So I get 3x is equal to 1, or x is equal to 1/3. And on the other equation, I get that x is equal to 1. So my solution for this particular problem will be 1/3 and 1. Second strategy that we can use is completing the square. If you look in your textbooks on page 81, you'll see the steps for doing so. So see your textbook, page 81. Let's say we had this problem, x squared minus 6x minus 11 is equal to 0. First step for completing the square is to move the constant, that is the number that has no variable with it, to the opposite side. So you're going to have x squared minus 6x is equal to a positive 11. What you do next is take half of the coefficient b, which in this case is negative 6. So take half of negative 6, multiply negative 6 by 1/2, square it, and add it to both sides. So now you have x squared minus 6x plus negative 3, because that's half of negative 6, square it, and add it to both sides. So on this side, you'll have a negative 3 squared as well. Factor the left side. What you want is a nice perfect square, which will be x minus 3 squared. On the right side, you have x plus 9. Negative 3 squared is 9. And so you get x minus 3 squared is equal to 20. Then you take the square root of both sides. Anytime you take the square root of both sides, it's going to remove the radical on the left side. And on the right-hand side, you're going to get plus or minus. So you have x minus 3 is equal to plus or minus square root of 20. Well, we can rewrite that as 4 times 5 because 4 is a perfect square. So when we simplify this, we now have x minus 3 is equal to plus or minus 2. The square root of 4 is 2 times the square root of 5. And we have to solve this for x. So to solve for x, we are going to add 3 to both sides, and we get x is equal to 3 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 5. These are our two solutions, 3 plus 2 times the square root of 5 and 3 minus 2 times the square root of 5.